Hello, everyone. My name is Nevin Akaydın. I am a librarian at Santa Clara City Library. Today, I am with Nina Sachdev from USCIS. So thank you, Nina, for your time and for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to join, and I'm glad so many people were able to come on this session and participate and learn about the naturalization process, how you can become a US citizen through naturalizing, which is a very exciting process. And I'm so glad all of you have joined to learn more about it and information. The session is being recorded. So the information I'm sharing today is accurate as of today, which is December 7th, 2021. And again, my name is Nina Sachdev. I do work for US Citizenship and Immigration Services. I'm in San Jose, California, and I work as a community relations officer on behalf of the agency. All right, so let's get started here. So today we're going to go over the rights and responsibilities of US citizenship, the naturalization eligibility requirements, the interview, some updates, and at the end, I'll be answering your questions. Okay, so let's talk about the rights and responsibilities. So, right to vote, any local, state, or federal election, right? Voting for president, but we have a lot of things to vote on besides just voting for the president. They're very important and affect our lives every day. You can also apply for US passport when you become a citizen of the United States and travel to many countries around the world. You can run for elected office. So many of our government leaders are, in the city's office in San Jose, even Santa Clara City, for instance, in our state, across the country. A lot of our elected officials went through the naturalization process themselves and ran for office. You can work for the US government. Many of my colleagues who I work with, even immigration officers who will be interviewing you to be naturalized, they themselves have gone through the naturalization process. So once you become a citizen, you can apply for US government jobs with the federal government, and that's through usajobs.gov. There's a website there to apply for those federal jobs. You also get to upgrade family petitions. As a green card holder, you can only apply for your parents, as well as brothers and sisters, along with, of course, your spouse and children. So you can apply and petition for more family members. And one of the responsibilities of a US citizen is to serve on a jury. So that's where somebody has a criminal case and there's a jury of their peers to decide what is the outcome of that case. And that's a great responsibility that we hold. Okay, so here's a slide of the naturalization process, sort of just in a nutshell here, in a flow. So first step, of course, is to get that form for naturalization. There's a form, it's called the N-400. Can be found on our website, uscis.gov. And you can fill it out on the computer, you can print it out and fill it in, or you can apply online, make an online account and answer the questions there. A lot of things will be filled out for you as you answer more and more questions. So it's very easy. I highly recommend creating an online account and submitting your application online. Once you do that and you submit it and you submit the fee as well, you will receive a receipt notice in the mail saying we have accepted your application. You'll receive it in the mail if you have an online account. You will also receive that notice in your online account. Okay. Then after several months, you will get a notice saying you have a biometrics appointment to get your fingerprints done. They will take a picture of you and you'll do an electronic signature. So that will happen and you will go to a local place that is sort of, we have several of those offices around the country. There's a certain address and a certain time of day for your appointment. However, some people may not receive a notice to get their biometrics done. They're reusing your biometrics from a previous application, so no need to come in. Okay, that means in our system. We already have the fingerprints from your 10 fingers. We have a picture, we have a signature already, and we are able to reuse them. Okay, I can't give you specifics on why some people's are getting reused and others are not. It's really what we already have in the system. And if the system itself is, says, okay, it's good enough to reuse them, but many people are getting those letters as well. And then you'll wait several months again and receive a notice for your appointment for your interview. Okay, you'll get that in the mail. Notice in your online account. Okay, this is where the nerves start coming up, right? You've got to really prepare. Hopefully you've already been preparing and studying those questions for that civics exam, but if not, this is the time to sort of gear up and get ready for your interview. And the interview is generally scheduled 4 to 6 weeks out from the time you get your appointment notice. Okay, so you'll get ready to go for that, and then you'll come into the office. You must come in person into our office. The appointment notice, of course, will have the address, the date and time you're to come, and gives a lot of information on that notice. You want to read it very carefully. Everything you need to that appointment for your interview. So you'll go to the office, you'll go through our security system, you'll go through our, wait in the waiting room for a bit, and an officer will come out, an immigration officer will come out, ask you, look, they'll say, yes, are you here, Ms. Sachdev, are you here? They'll kind of look for you in the waiting room. You'll go back to their office and you will have your interview. The interview is typically 30. I'll give more details as we move on in the presentation. So you do your interview, you complete the interview. At the end of the interview, the officer does tell you how you did, and the officer will give you a piece of paper saying how you did. Did you pass? Did you not pass? Perhaps this is why you did not pass. Okay, so you have some sort of conclusion at the end of the interview. And then after that, if you did pass, you will receive a notice to come to an oath ceremony. And that is where you become a US citizen. Okay, it's at your oath ceremony. You give us your green card, you don't see your green card again. You receive a certificate of naturalization, which shows you are a US citizen. Okay, and that's the day. That's the final end of the journey. Okay. If you go to your interview and you do not pass, you get a second chance. You'll get another appointment notice in about 60 to 90 days to come in again for a second interview. It will focus on the areas that you did not pass. So let's say, everything was fine, but you did not pass the civics questions. Well, the officer will just ask you, anything changed since you last came to the office? All right, let's focus on the civics questions and go through that. Okay. And then if you pass, wonderful. You go to your oath ceremony, become a citizen. If you don't pass a second time, then in the mail, you will get a letter explaining all the reasons why you did not pass and your application is being denied. Fix anything that needs to be fixed or whatever needs to be done, and then you can apply again. But
Nina,
you will need to apply and pay the fee. Yes.
So I think we are experiencing the sound is breaking.
Oh, it is.
So
okay.
I think I was thinking if it's just for me, but other people as well. Are you using any microphone or something?
No, I'm just using my computer. But you know what? I can call in from my phone, and I'll try to see if I can mute myself here.
Yes, that would be great. Let's try that. It's only split second, but
okay, I'm calling from my.
Let's try if we can fix it. Thank you all for your patience.
Okay, and Nevin, you can go ahead and mute me.
Okay.
Because I can't somehow get to that button with my.
Okay, let me see. You are muted, yes. But we cannot hear you from your call. Okay, look. So what I'm going to do, I will unmute you. did you call as let me see if you called as a, and your phone number starts with or ends with 065? No. 421? Yes? Okay. That's you. I'll allow you to talk. Okay, let's see. Let's try.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, is there an echo?
A little bit, yes. Because let me see. Thank you all for your patience. Let's fix this because if not, we will continue as is before. So you are muted on the computer and you are unmuted on the phone. Can you talk?
hear me?
Let's see.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little bit of an echo.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure which one we would prefer, a little bit of sound breaking or a little bit of echo. I would choose sound breaking because it's only split seconds.
See if I can turn this.
Also, you can try to reduce the volume on your phone, on your device, make it 0, and let's see if it works with your phone.
Does this work? Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So
That
I
was
just turned off the
a
volume.
suggestion from one of our attendees. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let's continue.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. No problem. Okay, so where were we? We were here talking about the process. Okay, so I think I was saying that if you do not pass, you get a second chance for an interview, and if it's a denial, you know, you can apply again. You just need to apply all over, submit the form, and submit the fee again. That's all. Okay, so that's basically the process here. So let's go into the general requirements. Here, there's about 9 requirements listed, and we're going to go through each of these more in detail. So you need to be at least 18 years old to apply. Okay, you have to be a lawful permanent resident, which means have your green card. You meet the continuous residence and physical presence requirements, which I'll go into. Live in the USCIS district where you apply, have good moral character, and then also show a basic understanding of English, knowledge of U.S. history and government, and attachment to the U.S. Constitution. So first of all, you need to be 18 years old, right? And how long do you need to be a permanent resident, have your green card, okay? So if you are applying based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, then you need to have your green card for 3 years, okay? If you are applying based just on yourself being a green card holder, then you need to have your green card for 5 years, okay, before you apply. And there are exceptions for people applying for military service or veterans. If somebody's been in the military, they just need to complete basic training and then they can apply, even if their basic training was just 3 months. Also, I know people ask, can I apply early? Yes, you can apply early, but you just need to make sure you meet all the other requirements, okay? So if you are applying based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, we call it the 333 requirement. So at the time of filing, you must have been a permanent resident for 3 years, okay? You also must have been married to the same U.S. citizen for 3 years. And your U.S. citizen spouse must be a citizen for 3 years, okay? And all those 3 years, of course, can overlap. It's all those 3 years, but the time of filing, this is the requirement. Okay, the next 2 requirements have to do with travel. And it talks about what we call the statutory period. So the legal term, statutory period. So in general, the statutory period is 5 years or 3 years, period preceding the date of filing the application up until the oath of allegiance. So let's say that you applied on January 19th of 2021 based on being a permanent resident for 5 years. Well, we are going to look back to January 19th, 2016 for all the times that you have traveled and left the United States, okay? But then at the interview, the officer is also going to check after you applied, and up until the interview, the officer will ask, well, did you travel, during that time after you applied and before you saw me today? And then at your oath ceremony, if your oath ceremony is a little bit later after your interview, there are, again, some questions, and the officer asks you, has anything changed? Has you traveled, been arrested or things like that, up until your actual oath ceremony. So this entire period is what we call that statutory period. So within that period of time, those last 5 years or last 3 years before you applied, you need to have met the continuous residence requirement, showing that you are permanently living in the United States. So if you took one long trip abroad, that was, I'm going to go to the very bottom of the slide, one long trip that was more than a year, okay, you're outside the United States for more than a year for one trip, you do not meet the requirement. And that means when you came back to the United States, you need to stay in the United States for at least 4 years and 6 months before you consider applying to be a citizen. Okay. But if you, for the last 5 years or last 3 years, okay, if you're applying based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, you took one long trip that was in between 6 months and a year, okay, you do qualify, but the officer is going to ask you, why did you leave the country for so long? What were the reasons? And what evidence can you show that shows that you are permanently living in the United States? Did you keep your house? Did you keep your residence here? If your kids were here, did they continue to go to school? If you had a job, did you keep your job in the United States? Or, were you working in a different country, in your home country, right? Working in your home country shows, well, maybe you're not really living in the United States. You don't have that permanent connection and tie. So that's what the officer wants to find out. Okay, in the last 5 years or last 3 years, if you left the United States for less than 6 months and came back during that time, that's not a problem, okay? As long as you have, met the requirement, that's fine. You've met the requirement if you're, you took a trip for 5 months, okay? Or you took several trips for 5 months, that's okay. The second requirement that has to do with travel is about physical presence, okay? It's the time that you have been physically present in the United States. Physical presence is cumulative, and trips, we basically calculate and add up all your trips, okay? And the requirement is that you spend half of the statutory period physically in the United States, okay? 18 or 30 months in the United States. So this is where we are going to be adding all the trips. And the application form asks you, when did you travel? What was the date of your travel? When did you leave? When did you come back? What is those number of days? If you file online, it calculates it for you. You don't have to do the math. And all those days will be added up in the last 5 years or the last 3 years, okay? And those dates need to be less than half of 5 years. So 5 years is 60 months. Half of that is 30 months. So as long as all of those travel days is less than 30 months, you're fine. Okay, you've met this requirement. If you're applying based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, then half of those 3 years is 18 months. Okay. After you apply, if you travel, that's okay. You still just need to make sure you meet the requirement. So at the interview, the officer will check, okay, are you still, the number of days of your travel is less than 30 months or those 18 months. Right? So that's how you meet this physical presence requirement. Okay, jurisdiction, this is very simple. This just means you need to live in California, if you're in California, for 3 months before you apply. But let's say, you're ready to apply, you decide to move to Arizona. We just say, live in Arizona, establish you're a resident there for at least 3 months, and then you can apply. Okay, we just don't want people to move around the country because they think one office is better than another office or faster than another office and sort of shop around to apply for a certain location. Okay, the other requirement here is showing good moral character. So this doesn't mean you need to be a perfect person or a moral, it's not about morals or ethics. This is actually a legal term, good moral character. And what this means is you have to show, basically most of the questions on the application form ask you these questions to check if you've met the requirement. So have you ever been arrested, cited, put in jail, any of your criminal history, right? That's all part of this. Have you been paying your taxes? If you don't owe any money, that's fine. If you're retired or you're not working, that's totally okay. But you have to answer all the questions truthfully. Have you ever harmed somebody? All of those questions basically go to this requirement. Okay, and another requirement, of course, is knowledge of English and civics. So you must understand, speak, and read and write basic English. Okay, you need to understand all the questions on the naturalization form. I know some of those questions and the vocabulary, the words used are a bit complicated, but hopefully if someone's helping you, they can kind of help you to understand sort of more in basic terms what those concepts are and what they mean, because the officer will expect you to understand the questions on the form. That's what they'll be asking you during the interview. And the knowledge of U.S. government and history and government is shown by your answering correctly the civics questions. So USCIS, we provide you with the questions that we're going to ask you regarding U.S. government and history. There's 100 questions, and you will be asked up to 10 questions at the interview, and you need 6 correct to pass. If you're going for your biometrics appointment, you'll be getting this little pocket guide that has those 100 questions in it. If you're not going to a biometrics appointment because we're reusing those biometrics, then I urge you to go online and print out the questions, or just use them online as well. And I'll show you some resources where you can find that. Okay, some people can become citizens without learning English, right? How is that possible? Okay, well, if somebody is at least 50 years old and they have been a permanent resident, they have their green card for 20 years, or they're 55 years old and they have their green card for 15 years, then they can do the naturalization interview in their own language. They will still answer the questions about U.S. government and history, but in their own language, okay? On our website, again, uscis.gov, there is a link to our multilingual resources, or if on our citizenship page we have there as well. We have questions in, I think, of almost 20 languages there. All the questions have been translated there. If somebody is 65 years old and they have had their green card for 20 years, they can do the interview in their own language, and they have a simplified test. Means that they only need to study 20 questions. They don't need to study the 100 questions. And when you look at the questions on our website or in the booklet, those questions have a little star next to an asterisk. That shows that it's one of those 20 questions. Right? And all of these requirements, so you're 50 years old at the time of filing. So if you want to file early, you have to be careful. You still meet that requirement. So at the time you file, you're 50 years old. At the time you file, you've been a permanent resident for 20 years, right? Or 55 years old and been a permanent resident for 15 years, and you see this slide. So, unfortunately, we've had some people who say, oh, I can apply 90 days early. They're 49 years old when they actually apply, and they think they're going to do the test in English, in their own language. But when it comes to it, the officer says, I'm sorry, you did that, you applied early, you have enough time as a permanent resident, but you were 49 when you applied, you weren't 50. So sorry, you have to take the test in English now. And make sure you're not one of those people, or your family or friends that you're giving this information to is not one of those people. People who have disabilities, of course, can become U.S. citizens, right? How is this possible? So they have a form, this N648 form, they will take to their doctor, their regular doctor they've been seeing, a medical doctor, a doctor of osteopathy, a DO, or clinical psychologist can fill out the form. And basically they say this is the medical issue this person is having, and this medical issue does not allow them to learn English or not allow them to study. Okay, there has to be sort of a medical link between their mental abilities. And the doctor will fill this form out, and the person applying should send this in when they file their N400 form. If they're doing this, they aren't able to file online, they do need to file through the mail for this process. Okay, the last requirement here is showing an attachment to the Constitution, the US Constitution. How do you do this? Basically, it's very simple. So the last part of the N400 form has about 7 questions there that ask you, do you support and defend the United States government, the Constitution, you're willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States and things like that. So you just answer those questions truthfully. And at the oath ceremony where you become a citizen, you raise your right hand and you recite that oath of allegiance. That shows your attachment to the US Constitution. Immigration officers will never ask you your political opinion, who you voted for, your religion. They are not allowed to ask you. That's completely inappropriate. So that's not how you show a connection to the US Constitution. Okay, it's only those ways that I spoke about, right? Taking that oath and answering the questions at the end. And finally, to be a citizen, right, that happens at the oath ceremony. It does not happen at the interview. It's at the oath ceremony where you give us your green card and you don't see it again, and you get your certificate of naturalization. And it's a beautiful time, we know, but unfortunately with COVID, we've had to really scale back and make our ceremonies more administrative and just kind of getting documents from you and then giving you a naturalization certificate, taking that oath of allegiance and answering any questions there. And as you can see, this is for San Jose office. In this picture, all the applicants, the people ready to become citizens are outside, masked, social distance here, and we are doing them in our parking lot outside here for our oath ceremony. Some offices around the country are doing the oath ceremony on the same day. So, you finish your interview and you're asked to sort of wait in the waiting room, or maybe you go outside the building and you come back, and you've been giving your oath ceremony on the same day. That's happening as well. Okay, again, how do you file? Where do you even start? Go to uscis.gov, look up forms. Okay, look up that N400 form. You can also go to uscis.gov and click on citizenship. Everything I'm talking about today is on our website, and there's so much more information there. And that's where you'll find all the information about how do you file, how do you create an online account. You can even watch videos on how to do it. We give you a lot of help on our website. All right, let's talk about the interview. Okay, so before the interview, you have to think about, should I even show up, right? And this is really because of COVID-19. We don't want to expose anybody in the office to it. If you're feeling ill for any reason, please reschedule. Okay, if you have contact or known or suspected contact with a person who has had COVID-19 in the last 2 weeks, you must reschedule. If you've traveled internationally in the past 2 weeks, you must reschedule. If you're a heightened risk due to age or underlying health condition and you're not comfortable coming in the office, you can reschedule. It's up to you. What you do is you call that contact center that we have, 1-800-375-5283, and ask to reschedule your appointment. There's no penalty for doing so. Our officers, immigration officers, they're interviewing, up to 8 to 10 people a day. So they're seeing a lot of people, and we really don't want to have them be exposed to becoming ill or spreading anything around our offices for anybody else. And I know people have waited a long time for their interview. We have had people come in who are clearly sick, and it's just not fair. I mean, I know you've been waiting a long time, but we really don't want to spread any illness around the office or to the population. So please do reschedule if you're feeling sick. But let's say everything is good. On the day of your interview, you're not feeling sick, you're ready to go, you have studied, you've prepared. What I always suggest too, it's a big day, so before the day of your interview, go to the office. If you're taking public transportation or you're driving, just go there, get familiar with where you're going to park. In San Jose, we have a free parking lot outside. How long did it really take you to travel? Just so you can get the timing correctly and you're not super nervous on the day of your interview. It helps you calm down a bit, just knowing how to get there and where you're going to be, right? So you're going to come into the office, you're going to show your ID, your green card, and your appointment notice to the guard outside. They want to make sure, there's a reason for you to enter the building. You can stand in that line to enter the building about 15 minutes before your interview. And then the guards will let you in through their security process. It's you walk in through the metal detector. You will be asked to take off your belt and take off your shoes. So don't wear a lot of metal that day. You cannot have any sharp objects or weapons. So, if you have a metal nail file, sometimes people have, or nail clippers, just make sure you leave all of that at home, okay? You're gonna put back your shoes, put your belt back on. You'll go to our check-in desk and you'll talk to that officer there and say, I'm here for my naturalization interview. It's very important you go to the check-in desk because their computer system will let the officers know that, you're here, you're in the waiting room now. So then you'll go to the waiting room and the immigration officer will come out and ask you, by your name. They'll look for you. Okay, where are you? Make sure you're the right person. And then they will take you back to their office. On the way to the office, they'll probably, just chat with you a bit. How are you doing? How do you feel? Did you eat this morning? Just make some small talk. The officer's really trying to understand what's the level of English that you have so they can tailor their interview. And they'll know, okay, I can speak this pace, maybe I need to slow down. We just want to get a sense of your level of English as we walk you back to the office. The officer will place you under oath to tell the truth. They'll ask you to raise your right hand. Please, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? They'll ask to see your documents, your ID, your green card, and your passports, if you have any passports, if you've traveled in the last 5 years or 3 years. They'll ask you some questions on the form. They want to make sure they have your full name, your legal name, any other names that you've used, your date of birth, these sort of biographical questions about you. And they'll give you the reading and writing test. Okay, very simple sentence to read in English and a very simple sentence to write. If you don't get it correct the first time, they'll give you another sentence to read or write. Okay, if you don't get it correct again, they'll give you a third. You get 3 chances. Okay, to read and write a sentence in basic English. Then the officer will give you that civics test. Okay, they will ask you orally those questions. Okay, they'll ask you up to 10. You need to say the answer back. Okay. I know some people ask, well, there's that app. USCIS has an app to practice. It's a multiple choice app. I thought this test was multiple choice, or I thought it was a written test. Okay. You're hearing me now, or you're listening to this recording, it's not a written test. It is not multiple choice. You will need to hear the question from the officer and you will speak the answer back to the officer, okay? Just needs to be a correct answer to pass that test, right? You just need 6 out of 10 correct to pass, okay? And throughout the interview, the officer will be assessing your level of understanding and speaking English. That's really, are you able to understand and answer the questions on that naturalization form? So one of the best ways to prepare is print out that naturalization form and have somebody read through all the questions and ask you those questions. And that's how the best way to practice. And at the end, the officer will tell you how you did. They'll give you a piece of paper with your name on it and their name on it as well. And it will be marked, you passed or you didn't pass or whatever the reason is there. Okay, so you should always leave the interview knowing what happened because you will get that document. If you don't pass, you do get a second chance. In 60 to 90 days, you'll get a second interview appointment to come in for that second interview. This is what a sample office looks like right now. You can see that the officer in person will be wearing a mask and is behind that clear screen, that plexiglass screen. Or in some of our offices, we're having what we call virtual interviews. So this is where you're going to come to the office and you'll be speaking to the officer through that iPad or tablet, kind of like having Zoom meetings. And then there's another iPad or tablet where you'll be, signing your name or reviewing information or taking the reading and writing test on that and writing there. And there's a printer there, so any documents that need to get printed, the officer will have them come out that printer and then you need to sign or see anything there. If you need to show the officer anything, the officer will say, please hold up your document to that camera there that's sort of indicated on the tablet. And they'll take a picture of it and, they'll have it into the system there. That's how it's going. The virtual interviews are going great. There hasn't been really any issues. If there are any tech issues that come up, we do have people around to help and support that process. Okay, let's talk about resources. So there's a lot of resources on our website. I really urge you to go there, uscis.gov, and you can click on citizenship. We have an entire resource center where you can do practice tests, get all the study materials you need, vocabulary words to help you practice English, videos. You can listen to the questions in civics. You can also find an English or civics class too if you want to have additional support. If you're a teacher or starting tutoring, we have a lot of materials and lesson plans for teachers to teach on this subject as well. We do have an app, as I mentioned. You can see it here. It's that picture of the white with a torch with that red flame in the App Store or Google Play. It's multiple choice, but again, when you go to your interview, it's not multiple choice, right? The officer will speak the question and you need to say the answer back, okay? I really like our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search for USCIS. You'll find videos there about how to apply online, how to use the tablet that we have, what an interview looks like. And one of my favorites is officers reading the civics questions. So you can hear the questions and then you can hear the answers. I think that really helps to kind of just go through what the actual interview is going to be like with that video. On our website as well, we have a lot of tools. So if you go to our website and click on tools, you'll see all of this information. You can check your case status, change your address. So if you applied with us with any application with USCIS and you move within 10 days, you need to change your address with us. Go to the website is the best way to change the address. If you fill out a form and mail it, sometimes in our system it doesn't work out well to update it. You really should go to the website, change your address. Even if you went to the post office, it does not change the address in our system. Okay, you need to go to our website, uscis.gov, and click on change your address. You can check processing times as well. And there's a lot of how do I fact sheets, how do I become a citizen? How do I become a green card holder? How do I petition for my relatives? I'm a student, how do I do this? How do I show my employer that I'm allowed to work here? There's a lot of guides on that as well. What I really like to is exploring my options. So if you can say, I'm a student, how do I get from being a student to, having an H-1B, right? And you kind of click on this and it shows you, okay, here's your immigration journey, right? This is kind of all the steps you're going to need to take to get to where you want to go. If you have questions, we have a lot of information on the website. So we have a virtual assistant, Emma. You can click on her. She speaks English and Spanish. And you can ask her a question and she can kind of say, okay, here's where you want to go on the website to find information. Or you can call our 1-800 number as well. We have a little bit of time. So if, I'll do this in a little bit. Let me go through the rest of these slides. I always like to mention, please, avoid scams. You're already listening to this session, so you're in good shape in a way that you won't get scammed because you know the correct website. What is it? USCIS.gov, right? You don't want to go to .com, .net. Those are total scams. They try to make it look like our website, but, don't go there to fill out any information. And we have a web page just talking about scams. If you've been scammed, if you want to report a scam or getting legal services and help, you can also do that on our website as well. If you do need legal assistance, so the Department of Justice has accredited representatives that can represent you and help fill out their form. They are nonprofit organizations, and I have this, you can see it here, but you really just go to Department of Justice's website to find a roster of those organizations, nonprofits that can help you. I know the library has a list of that as well. And if you go physically to the library, the Santa Clara City Library, the main one, there's a wonderful citizenship corner there that has all of this great resources and information. If you're looking for an immigration attorney, you can do that as well, but you just want to make sure that check their background and credentials. Go on Department of Justice website, check if they've been disciplined, or go on, if you're in California, go to the California Bar Association website and check if there's any sort of disciplinary actions against any attorneys there. But, you know, there's a lot of great immigration attorneys that are out there that can help you as well. In California, there are immigration consultants and preparers that exist. They're allowed to exist, but they cannot provide legal assistance. They can do simple clerical functions and translate forms, and they should write, you know, they help prepare the form on the N400 form or any immigration form. There's a section if you're a preparer, you know, fill out your information as well. But they can't give any legal advice, so please watch out for those folks. They can only do sort of certain simple clerical functions, okay? And that's the end of my presentation. So I can, you know, thank you again for taking this time to be with me today and be with us. And thank you again to Santa Clara City Library and Evan for hosting this session about how you can become a U.S. citizen.
Thank you so much, Nina.